Shalom. What is Yahuwah's plan for all mankind? This is part 3 of the series that talks about the purpose why Yahuwah made human beings, B'tselem Elohim. Why we're made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah himself. If you haven't had a chance yet to watch parts 1 and 2, definitely I encourage you to watch part 1, which talks about the question of whether or not there's life after death, and shows that yes indeed, Yahuwah has promised to give life after death. It's not a guarantee. Everybody is not going to live after they die. No one is going to live forever and ever in suffering. But if we choose life, we can actually be given the gift of eternal life and live forever. We saw that in part 1. In part 2, we saw why we were made physical human beings. And that we were made in the image and likeness of Elohim so that we could literally choose to be like him. Yahuwah wants to see if that's what we really want. Do we want to live his way? If we enjoy it? If we enjoy it, think of it this way. Right now, we are being given a free trial. The physical life we experience is our free trial, an opportunity for us to try on his way of life. If it fits, if we like it, then he promises to give us that way forever. But if we don't like it, he doesn't want us to suffer. And he knows that any way contrary to his way would lead to eternal suffering. And so, as we saw in part 2, if we make the wrong choice, then Yahuwah will simply let us go out of our misery, die forever. We will not live forever. But now we want to ask the question, is Yahuwah just totally leaving it up to chance? Would most people actually end up not choosing life? How about all the millions of people who never even heard about the name of Yahuwah, never had a chance to try on this way of life? Are they simply lost forever? In part 3, what we're going to discuss today, we're going to look at how Yahuwah has engineered success into the plan and revealed that to us in what he has revealed in the sacred text, the Hebrew text, what we call the Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, that is the prophets, and the Ketuvim, the writings. It's revealed, yes, Yahuwah revealed to his people that he has a plan for all mankind, so that the vast majority of all who have ever lived would actually choose life. And that is fantastic news. As we saw at the end of the last part of this 3-part series, he said, "Do I have pleasure in the death of the wicked, declares Adonai Yehovah, rather than that he should turn from his ways and live? I am Moriah ben Avraham." Join me here today on Talmidei Yahuwah, and we're going to discuss the plan of success that Yahuwah has revealed in the Tanakh. Hallelujah. There's a great plan, and we can all be a part of that plan of success. In fact, the vast majority of all human beings are actually going to be a part of this plan of success. Most, though, have no idea of it at this time. But we'll look into the prophecies and we'll see when that's going to be revealed, when all human beings will have a full chance to actually choose life. So, let's get into it. Yahuwah is working out a master plan that's spanning literally thousands of years to bring all human beings, because every human being is made B'tselem Elohim. Every human being is made in the image and likeness of Yahuwah Elohim. Yes, he's got a master plan that will enable the vast majority not to choose death, but to actually choose life. How is he accomplishing that? What do we see in the scriptures? We can see, even in the very creation week, that Yahweh has prefigured the idea that this plan is going to span some 7,000 years. The creation week shows how Yahweh has been working on a long-term plan where almost everyone who's ever lived will be resurrected and given a chance to choose life. He said, "For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it passes by, or as a watch in the night." In other words, to Yahweh, 1,000 years is just like a day. The first 6,000 years of human existence is pictured in the first 6 days of creation. The 6 days where Yahweh said, 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. But the seventh day, the Shabbat, Yom HaShabbat, that's a day of rest. This coming 1,000 year period, which hasn't started yet, is going to be like rest compared to this first 6,000 years of human experience. And we're going to understand why. Because the first 6,000 years are based on us living out our own way of life. Basically, when Adam and Hawa chose to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it was determined at that time that all of the descendants of Hawa would therefore experience eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and experience actually the results of choosing your own way, living your own way of life. And so for 6,000 years, we've simply been doing it and experiencing. This world is based on man and mankind in general, all human beings, all nations, all doing it and coming up and making up their own way of life. And look at the fruits. Look at the fruits of what we're experiencing. See, remember, Yahweh had initially given humans the opportunity to be in a covenant relationship with him from the very beginning. He had Adam and Hawa, the first two human beings. In fact, her name at that time was Isha. He had Adam and his wife, Isha, living in Gan Eden, a place of total pleasure. And out of the ground, it says, Yahweh Elohim caused to grow every tree that is pleasing to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Moreover, Yahweh commanded the man and said, "From any tree of the garden you may freely eat, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat from it, you will surely die." Eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil would bring death. So unlike the tree of life, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a tree of death. See, one tree represented life, the other tree represented death. Taking and eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil meant directly going against the will of Yahweh, rebelling against his way. But eating of the tree of life was symbolic of accepting what Yahweh has revealed to be true, to be right, to be actually the best way to live. When Adam and Hawa chose to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they chose, therefore, to rebel against Yahweh and do what was right in their own eyes. And the punishment was that they were cast out of the Garden of Eden. Eden means pleasure. They were cast away from Yahweh, that close covenant relationship with Yahweh. And humans, all of their descendants, no longer had free access to the tree of life. They lost access to the knowledge of the best way to live. Adam and Hawa had a desire to do things their own way. And truly now that's kind of every human's desire. And this is the desire that basically the serpent appealed to when he said, "For Elohim knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil." In other words, the serpent was saying, you won't have to take Elohim's word for it. You won't need to do things the way he's revealed. Instead, do what's right in your own eyes. You can decide for yourself. And this showed what was in the heart, really, of the two human beings that had been created, Adam and his wife, whom he called Isha at first. So Yahweh said to them, and in so doing, really spoke to all human beings, because all human beings have descended from them. You want to decide for yourself what's right and wrong? You want to make up your own rules? Go ahead. Go ahead. Let's see what you experience. Experience the fruit of your own doing. And Yahweh gave all of mankind 6,000 years to experience the fruit, the results of doing it in our own way. Not Yahweh's way, but making it up on our own. He said, try it out and see if that leads to the happiness and to the joy and the best way of life that you internally really seek. So that's what these 6,000 years of human experience are all about. They're about man trying to have the best life. You know, people talk about, I'm living my best life. Are you? If you're living your best life, are you living Yahweh's way? Because in the revelation that we're getting here from the Torah is that unless you're actually living Yahweh's way, it's not really the best life. Yahweh's way, what's revealed in the Torah, the tree of life, is truly the best way to live. Now, just think about all the suffering that we are aware of in what we would call human history. Just study any history, or just think about your own life's experiences and all the misery, all the suffering, all the pain, all the crying, all the war, all the pain that humans experience. And let's contrast that with what we know from the prophets is going to be in the world to come. Let's look at the prophetic vision that Yahweh gave his prophets about how joyful and full of happiness the world actually could be if everyone simply lived Yahweh's way. See, the prophets saw an end of this world where man is ruling over man. And they were given this prophetic vision of the time that is coming when Yahweh will rule over all the earth. And it will be a time when everyone will experience the fruit of living Yahweh's way. This future time is also pictured in the creation week by the 7th day of the week. And it will last also for 1,000 years. So 6,000 years of man doing it his own way. The 7,000th year, that is going to be in comparison like a rest day, like a day of joy. An oneg is a Hebrew way of thinking about it, compared to those 6,000 years where man's rule over man led to so much misery, pain, and suffering. Yahweh's rule over man is going to be so full of joy. Let's start with what the prophet Yeshayahu was given in his vision. Now, it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of Yahweh will be established as chief of the mountains, and it will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it, and many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Yaakov, that he may teach us concerning his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, and he will judge between the nations, and will render decisions for many peoples, and they will hammer their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, and never again will they learn war. Now, this passage is well known, quoted often, but it hasn't come to pass yet. There's war right now in the world. And there's never been a time when there hasn't really been war and violence and weapons of war. But the time is coming where everyone is going to change the implements of war into implements that, instead of killing each other, are used to bring produce from the ground so that everyone can enjoy the abundance and happiness. And everyone is going to learn the joy of living Yahweh's way, because it says that the mountain of Yahweh's house is going to be exalted above all the mountains. Those mountains, by the way, are basically metaphoric language picturing the fact that the nation of Israel will be exalted above all the other nations. And all the other nations, it says here, are going to flow to Yerushalayim, to Yisrael, and learn from Yisrael the Torah. The Torah is going to be taught. Everyone's going to learn Yahweh's way of life. And what's the fruit of that? What's the result of that? It's going to be happiness for all human beings. The world is going to be full of joy. In this future time, Yahweh will be recognized as Elohim of Yisrael, and all nations are going to come to learn Torah from Yerushalayim. Yahweh is going to put an end to all wars. The prophet Habakkuk adds, "For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea." These words are echoed by many prophets. In Tehillim, that's what, are referred to by the Greeks as Psalms. Tehillim, it's praises. Tehillim 47, we read, "For Yahweh Most High is feared, a great king over all the earth." Yes, this song embodied prophetic vision of what is to come, where Yahweh is going to be king over all the earth. It says he subdues peoples under us and nations under our feet. Not so that these nations can be punished, not so these nations could be simply hurt or made low. It's so that everyone can be taught, as we read already in the prophet Yeshayahu, everyone can be taught Yahweh's way. Elohim has ascended with a shout. Yahweh with the sound of the trumpet. For Elohim is the king of all the earth. It goes on to say, Elohim reigns over the nations. Elohim sits on his holy throne. This is the vision, the prophetic vision contained in the sacred text we call Tanakh, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. Elohim will ascend to his throne with the sound of the trumpet. In fact, if you read through the Torah, you see that we're commanded to keep a festival called Yom Teruah. And on that day, Teruah representing trumpets, both silver trumpets that Yahweh commanded to be made, and you can read about those in Bamidbar chapter 10, and the shofarim, shofar, the ram's horns, all these trumpets being blown. The festival of trumpets, celebrated annually on the first day of the 7th month on the Hebrew calendar, marks Yahweh's coming, ascension to the throne over the whole earth. And at that time, the vision of Yeshayahu will be fulfilled, where Yahweh says, "I have sworn by myself. Yes, the word has gone forth from my mouth in righteousness and will not turn back, that to me every knee will bow and every tongue will swear allegiance." That's going to happen. Every human being on earth is going to bow down to Yahweh, and at that time he's going to be the ultimate authority in the world. Every knee will bow to him. The world is going to be full of the knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. And what's the result of that? Can you imagine when everybody actually learns to give and not take from others? Can you imagine a world where everyone isn't trying to cheat you? Everyone is not trying to steal from you? Everyone's not trying to rob from you? Imagine a world where we no longer need locks on doors because there's no theft anymore. Where we no longer need security, all cameras everywhere, because everyone is striving to live Yahweh's way. That's what we're talking about here. And the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard will lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little boy will lead them. Also the cow and the bear will graze. Their young will lie down together, and the lion will eat straw like the bull. The nursing child will play by the holes of the cobra, and the weaned child will put his hand on the viper's den. They will not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain. For the earth will be full of the knowledge of Yahweh as the waters cover the sea. Just before this future time begins, the prophet Daniel saw in his vision and shared the prophecy of the resurrection that will occur. He said, many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground, meaning those who died already, will awake. That means they're not living today. You see, they're in a state of death, which is like sleep. We saw that in part 1. But at this time, they will be resurrected to everlasting life, but others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. Yes, there's going to be a resurrection of the dead. And at the time of the resurrection, many of the righteous, like Abraham, Dawid, and many of the other righteous people that we read about, Moshe, they will be resurrected, brought back to life, and be a part of the kingdom of Yahweh, reigning over the entire world, ushering in this time of joy and peace. You see, it's at that time that Yahweh is going to restore the nation of Israel back to the land that he swore to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The prophet Daniel spoke of this in chapter 7, when he saw the world ruling governments as 4 beasts. And he said, these great beasts, 4 in number, mean 4 kingdoms will arise out of the earth. Then the holy ones of the Most High will receive the kingdom and will possess the kingdom forever and ever. The holy ones refers to the children of Israel. So in other words, the children of Israel are going to receive the kingdom. We're going to be brought back. This is when all the prophecies that talk about our restoration are going to be fulfilled. Everyone that Daniel pictured and saw in his vision that would be a part of the resurrection, the first resurrection, that would either be resurrected or changed at the time that Yahweh comes to establish his kingdom on earth. They're going to be the teachers in the world to come. YHWH saw this. He said, yet your teachers, that's all of those who are in a covenant relationship with Yahweh now, or who've died already, having been in this covenant relationship with Yahweh, having chosen life. He said, yet your teachers will not be moved into a corner anymore, but your eyes shall see your teachers. Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, whenever you turn to the right hand or whenever you turn to the left. In other words, it's going to be so joyful and easy in the time to come to walk Yahweh's way, because there are going to be so many people helping you. So many teachers. If you think to do something wrong on the right way, on the right hand, there will be somebody instantly there to say, hey, look, no, this is the right way to do this. This is how you're going to end up getting the most joy out of life. If you turn to the left, again, someone will be right there to guide you, to teach you, to work with you. All human beings are going to be so happy, and they're going to feel so fulfilled. The world is going to be filled with joy like the waters cover the sea. The first resurrection, therefore, is a resurrection of the righteous. It is a resurrection of all who had proven during their lifetime their choice of the tree of life. It's for all who are written in the book of life. However, in Daniel's prophecy, he also talked about those who were going to be resurrected to everlasting contempt. In other words, those who were going to be given final death, be destroyed, because they tasted this way of life, and they chose that they didn't want it. We talked about that in part 2. We talked about the fact that, look, Yahweh's not trying to force anybody to love his way. If you taste it, you don't like it, then if it's really not for you, you can choose death. But when most people get a chance to taste both ways, most people, the vast majority, are going to choose life. So those few who've already tried this and turned away, they're going to be brought back again and destroyed. But how about everyone else? See, most people, the vast majority of all human beings who have ever lived, and I'm talking about billions. We've got billions of people. Let's think about all the people who lived before the flood. We don't even know about them. And then after the flood, millions and millions and billions of people have lived. And the vast majority of them, they have not been a part of a covenant relationship with Yehovah, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So they haven't chosen yet. They're not going to be in that first resurrection. There's a second resurrection spoken of by the prophets, where everyone who has ever lived will be resurrected and now given the opportunity to choose life, but they will have the benefit of looking at the difference between the first 6,000 years and the last 1,000 years, which is the 1,000 years where Yehovah has ruled over mankind. And they will be able to compare the two. And they will have 100 years to make their choice. This is clearly revealed by the prophet Yeshayahu. For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered or come to mind. No more shall an infant from there live but a few days, nor an old man who has not fulfilled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the choteh, the person who is erred, the person who chooses death. Again, we don't like to use the word sinner. It's just, if you look up the word sin, you'll find that there was a moon god named Sin. And so it's just a bad translation. We just want to say the person who's chosen the wrong way of life. The choteh is the Hebrew. The person who chose the wrong way of life, who doesn't want Yehovah's way of life, being 100 years old, shall be accursed. In other words, okay, that's your choice. So everyone who's ever lived will either be resurrected. If you haven't already had this opportunity, you'll be resurrected. And then you'll be shown. You'll have the choice against the backdrop of all human history. And you can either now choose to live Yehovah's way of life, which you'll give 100 years to try it out. And at the end of 100 years, Yehovah will be able to see based on the choices you've made daily. Because remember, we're not choosing the end result. It's not like, oh, I'm going to hold a gun over your head and see if you want life or death. Yehovah wants to see, do we enjoy his way? Try it out, walk this way, live this way, and if you love it, you can live it forever. If it doesn't really please you, if you want to be selfish forever, well, that would lead to suffering forever. And so then you have to be put out of your misery. That's the choice that's being set before all humanity. So think about it. At that time, the choice is going to be so clear. You can see how Yehovah has literally engineered success. And most people, the vast majority, will choose life. And then the plan of making man, B'tselem Elohim, Adam, B'tselem Elohim, all humans in the image and likeness of Elohim, will really be fulfilled. At that time, the purpose of all humanity being in covenant relationship with Yehovah will be fulfilled. This is why Yehovah, when he called Abraham, began to put in motion this plan, saying, and in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. What Yehovah began in Abraham wasn't just for Abraham. It was for all humanity. He told Abraham, no longer shall your name be called Avram, but your name shall be Avraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. In other words, what started with Abraham isn't just for Abraham. It really is for all the families of the earth, all human beings. We all are going to be given the opportunity to be in covenant relationship with Yahweh, who is the only true Elohim, the creator of the heavens and the earth. The children of Israel were simply chosen first to be a kingdom of Kohanim, so to speak. In other words, a word often thought of or conflated with the idea of being a priest. We were called to be first, to serve first as a light to the world. So all nations and all people would have the opportunity to learn and walk in Yahweh's ways. I am Yahweh. I have called you in righteousness. I will also hold you by the hand and watch over you. I will appoint you as a covenant to the people, that's all nations, as a light to the nations, to open blind eyes, to bring out prisoners from the dungeon, and those who dwell in darkness from the prison. This is what Yahweh wants Yisrael to do. This is what our calling is if we accept it, to really live up to the Shem Yisrael even today. And clearly in the future, Yisrael will have the special role of teaching all nations Yahweh's way so everyone can join in the covenant and choose life. What Yahweh shows as his plan for Yisrael is indeed the end goal for all human beings ever created. Again, just so it's clear what the end goal is for all, let's look again specifically at what he says is for Yisrael. The prophet YHWH also says, I will make my covenant of peace with them. It will be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in their midst. My dwelling place also will be with them, and I will be their Elohim, and they will be my people, and the nations will know that I am Yahweh who sanctifies them. In other words, makes them Kodesh, when my sanctuary is in their midst forever. Yahweh's goal to dwell in relationship with those whom he has created, Yisrael first, and the rest of the world, all peoples, everyone who's ever lived after that. He continues, but this is the covenant which I will make with the house of Yisrael after those days, declares Yahweh. I will put my Torah within them, and on their heart I will write it. And I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. This is why human beings were made B'tselem, that is, in the image and likeness of Yahweh, of Elohim. But at the same time made from the dust of the ground. We were made physical so we would have a chance to change if we first made the choice to do things our own way. We can change. And that's the great news. As Yahweh said, do I have any pleasure at all that the wicked should die, says Adonai Yahweh, and not that he should turn from his ways and live? Cast away from you all the transgressions which you have committed, and get yourselves a new heart and a new spirit, for why should you die, O house of Yisrael? For I have no pleasure in the death of one who dies, says Adonai Yahweh. Therefore turn and live. If we turn to Yahweh, we will be able to enjoy the wonderful future pictured by the prophets, which we have talked about here in this 3-part series. And it is our destiny. Our destiny is to be in the image and likeness of Elohim and to enjoy countless, unheard of, unspeakable joy forever and ever and ever. This is our awesome calling. This is what David understood when he wrote, What is man that you think of him, and the Son of Man that you are concerned about him? We've seen why. We understand the full picture now. As David continued, he said, yet you have made him a little lower than Elohim. Yes, we made a little lower so that we can choose. We have chance to choose, even go the wrong way and change and go right. And then it says you have crowned him with glory and with majesty. That's our destiny. To be like Elohim, to walk like Elohim, to live in covenant relationship with him and experience joy for all time. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom.